So welcome. This is a conversation on considerations for you spending the How Does Learning Happen play-based funding for toys and equipment. Some things to consider to help support ongoing purchasing is the development of an inventory list of available materials in the center, so you can make informed decisions on adding materials to what you already have to allow for more complex play. There's the chance to develop an understanding of what materials are well utilized in your center. And if the materials are well utilized, does every classroom have a set? Borrowing materials ahead of time from ASCII Library is also a good strategy to see what you would support your program and the children's interests. Having staff create a list of what they would like, but then relating that purchases to How Does Learning Happen and how it would enhance the play in the room is also a good strategy to implement throughout the year. So when enhancement funding opportunities are announced, typically it's year-end with tight timelines for making purchases. Therefore, it is helpful to have an overall vision and next opportunity purchase list. Creating a habit and intention of reflecting on our environments on a regular basis allows for us to consider various perspectives, the educator team and the children. You can also use Module 3 in stepping side by side as another way of looking at your materials and your environments. As you are going through this PowerPoint, have paper and pen handy to jot down notes, pause as you like, and reflect. We've used photos throughout to illustrate things that you might see at sites or things that you might want in your programs. The book Caring Spaces and Learning Places, Children's Environments That Work also has some really good thought-provoking questions as you're looking at what you would like to purchase. It is recommended that purchases are made from childcare suppliers so that you get the good quality products and they come with a warranty. So places like Louise Kuhl & Galt, Wintergreen, Aviron, there are lots. Sets are recommended as they allow for a large amount of materials in each room to allow children ample materials to explore, which promotes engagement, and to build more complex patterns and buildings. Have all the educators contribute to the process of purchasing. Some questions to ponder when looking at your purchases are, how will the items be stored, displayed in your classroom? What containers might you need for them? What kind of shelf space do you have for them? Do they need floor space? If you're thinking of Muddy Buddies, where will they dry? Where will the item live in the room that it's intended for? Does the room need a room arrangement? And when purchasing, is there enough of the item to support complex play, or would you need more than one set of something? And then how will the materials be introduced when you get them? So block play is a really good place to look at. It allows for lots of open-ended play. Block play requires fine motor and gross motor skills. Blocks enhance children's problem-solving abilities, mathematical skills, and language and literacy abilities. And constructing creations builds self-esteem and feelings of success. So, wood unit blocks. If you don't have them, consider a large set of unit blocks for each preschool classroom. If you do have them, then we'll talk about accessories for block play shortly. Some of the blocks you can look at, building opportunities, ways of storing them, really can enhance this area and allow for large constructions.
Kathy, I would just add, I wanted to highlight when you said having plenty of blocks, like having them in a big amount, because I think it's really important that the children can build individually if they have a small project they want to do, or as a group. And we need enough of each kind of block to let them finish a project and really get far enough into a project and not be stalled by not having enough and not having them in plentiful amounts. So I'm really happy that you mentioned that.
Terrific. Yeah, there's nothing worse than not having enough of something to finish a project when you've been concentrating on it.
Absolutely, I agree. Another thing that you might want to consider when purchasing new materials is really looking at your collection of literacy materials, books specifically. Books are a great tool to use to enhance an invitation for children. And so you might want to think about replacing some of your books that are torn or well-loved, but also thinking around expanding the types of books that are in your collections. We want to give children a variety of books, books that support STEM activities, informational texts, those that, would be books that might include bridges or science material, animals, that kind of book, wordless books, concept books, as well as typical picture books and board books. Also thinking about, as Kathy had mentioned, multiples, it's always a good idea, especially if you have a particular story or book that children are really interested in, to make sure that you have multiple copies of favorites. As well, ASCII PLCs can help with giving you lists of books that would be, for different genres that you might want to consider.
Lots of good thoughts. And looking at textures, when you're looking to bring into materials and building opportunities, then you can bring different texture materials in. So sometimes when you're looking for additions, if you've got a good set of basic blocks, what would add different texture and light to the children's building experience? For infants and toddlers, again, it's looking at and thinking about blocks for them and what can we offer. So that chance for them to have schematic play that usually happens with this ages, happens all the way through. But what's going to challenge the little ones to have big body play, stimulating all of their senses. So again, looking for those opportunities for the infants and tots. Accessories for block play can really enhance and engage the children in more complex play. So reflect on the additions that you already have, really good places to start with. And there was lots of good examples in the previous pictures of ramps and curves and tunnels. So those things that will enhance those, the boards, really does add to the dimensionality of play for the children in the blocks. Realistic plastic animals and people are another good way of adding both diversity and science to your area, because they are considered, the realistic animals are considered science as well. And vehicles, and again, that opportunity have many and many of the same things. So that opportunity for children to play individually or to play collectively will be there, and they'll have lots of materials to distribute throughout the playtime. There are programs and centers that are some are focusing on STEM or STEAM learning. And this is a good time to reflect on all the different areas of your classroom that support this learning. So consider what would add complexity to the play for the children using open-ended materials, and then let the children examine and problem solve with these materials and create a plan to solve the problems that they've come up with, trying and learning as they use teamwork and self-regulation to complete the project that they've thought about. So again, that chance for cooperative play as well as individual play. So that opportunity as well to think about how are all the children's senses engaged in the classroom. So we have sight, sound, touch, and taste, which are the ones that we are most familiar with, and then what is offered for vestibular and proprioceptive play. So children develop their vestibular senses by swinging, spinning, twirling, and rolling around on the ground. Children gravitate towards these movements naturally. Vestibular movement is in fact considered critical to brain development. So now's the chance to look at what do we have in our classrooms or outside that would stimulate this sense for the children. And then you may also see the term such as heavy work when looking for proprioceptive activities. Heavy work is another term that is used to describe the type of activities that involve proprioceptive input. Since the input comes through muscles and joints, activities that involve engaging this sense are often pulling or lifting heavy objects. This can have a calming or alerting effect on the children who need this input. So again, that chance to think about the materials that we have around and how can we help the children develop a deeper understanding of those senses for themselves.
And I'm just going to jump in here too, Kathy. You did mention that this is both indoors and outdoors. Quite often in the past, we've thought of these vestibular and proprioceptive experiences just outdoors, but they could be extended inside as well. Things to consider though, like we said at the beginning of the PowerPoint, where are you going to store these materials? They do tend to take up a little bit more space. So where are they going to live? Are you going to rearrange your classroom for some of these materials?
Okay. And I know that sensory is often seen as water and sand play, and I love water and sand play, but I know that it's been difficult, and you have all done a lot of problem solving around offering water and sand play in your classrooms because you've seen the value of it by using individual bins and having lots of extra accessories for that time of the play. Now's kind of the time when you can look at what you do have, what might need to be replenished, or what would extend this play. So again, that opportunity to think about, you know, spring is coming. What are some of the things that might be able to be outside or inside? And we know our smocks get wear and tear. So is this the time that we should be looking at, do we need more smocks? If it's hard to get to the dryer and you're offering this and the children are really enjoying the individual basis for the water play, then do we need more smocks? So to think about that as you're going through. Okay.
Now, around self-regulation materials, in the past few years, we've talked a lot about how, introducing self-regulation materials into your classroom, setting up cozy corners and cozy spaces for the children to go and have that moment where they could calm down, have a moment to themselves, and sometimes having materials to help them with that. The fidgets or calm down type of materials would be nice to have in that area so they could focus their attention on some of those materials. With Tools for Life, we've talked about that, and we've talked about that. You'll see examples of that in the Tools for Life manuals. So some examples of fidget materials could be things that they can manipulate in their hands, the fidget toys. Sometimes those materials are small. So again, think about, is this appropriate for which age group I'm introducing it to? But think about putting them in your classroom and have multiples of them as well. Right now, the Poppets are very popular. Anything that they can stretch, pull, manipulate, something to, again, get them thinking about that touch rather than maybe that big emotion that's happening at that moment.
So light is known to be one of the most intriguing elements of exploration and discovery with young children, a way to tap into emotion, beauty, vivid imagination, and concrete learning. Light sources can evoke feelings and assist our work, living, and play. We are engaging the children's imaginations during light play, so consider the accessories to the light area that extends the children's thinking. That opportunity to see what will reflect and refract light and what the children are looking for. So that chance to involve that sense of sight and feeling as we're going, looking at that for the light table.
Kathy, if I could just jump in, I think that light is a great place for educators to jump in and let themselves go a little bit and allow themselves to not know the answer, to be curious and to have that sense of wonder, because we kind of can't predict what light is going to do when we experiment with it. So it's a really wonderful place to let ourselves be part of the play. As children show us all the marvelous things that they can discover about light, we can discover it right alongside them.
There's so many things that you can be added to a light table. So it's just looking for, and it was said earlier about being age appropriate. So when you are purchasing things for the different age groups, what is going to get the children looking and thinking and really engaging with the materials?
And I just want to add the light tables, the portable ones that can go, that are actually like a light tray are great because they can be moved around and set up in different areas of the classroom really easily. So those are light trays. You might want to consider something like that as opposed to a light cube, which is a little bit different.
Sorry, I'm going to also add with the light cubes, if you do go with that route, there are accessories that you could purchase for on top where you could put things like water and sand and other things like that on there. So again, all things to consider when you're choosing what type of light table you want to have in your classroom.
You'll also notice that these weren't, all these pictures were not directly attached to a light table or a light tray. So it's that opportunity to think about light in different ways. And reflecting up onto the wall or the ceiling, having indirect lighting as opposed to just your overhead lighting. So that opportunity to think about offering it in a multitude of formats. Okay. So the outdoor classroom, what do we need? Again, that chance to sit and think about what's being offered outside. We know it's wintertime when we're doing this right now, but that chance to constantly think about what's getting used and needs to be replaced outside. So consider setting a percentage of the funds you receive to purchase outdoor materials. Think about this on a regular basis to continue the development of the outdoor classroom. Ask yourself, when you are talking about the outdoor classroom, what is it that you want for the outdoors? So reflect on bikes and riding toys that you have and how the children use them. Think about purchasing riding toys from educational suppliers so it supports the longevity of those toys because they are hard used. And they have high use. So again, these are constructed quite well and are sturdy and outlast weather and multiple daily users. The other things you want to consider for outside is you think about the materials that might be needing to be replenished when you're thinking about the funding. So what are your shovels and your sand toys like for the summer? What are your shovels and your sleds like for the winter time? And how are we going to store them when they're done? So that opportunity to think about organized storage sometimes really helps. The other thing that you can offer and think about is sets of outdoor blocks. So that chance, children love to build in all different circumstances. So these are higher priced items, and this might be a good time to look at this. How will this develop for outdoor play? Where will we store them when they're outside? So how do we keep them safe and take care of them? And then what other natural elements could we add to those that aren't going to cost us anything? And that chance to be reflective of all that the outdoor offers the children. So, they're getting more physical exercise for their large and their small muscles. They're learning about the world with natural materials, what their environment is. And that is all in preparation. This is the way we prepare them for school, is giving them these opportunities to play with these materials and to integrate this knowledge deeply into their psyches. What do they have to explore and experiment with?
Something else that centers might want to consider, Kathy, with outdoor blocks, if you have an older set of wooden blocks that are kind of worn a bit from all the disinfecting that's been happening, maybe think about taking that set outdoors and replacing the indoor set as an option.
I like that. I hadn't thought about that, but that's, yep. And then recycling them that way. And again, an opportunity to have the materials stored. So we know where they go when they're done, and we know what we have available to the children, know what they have available to them. So lots of different ways of being able to store that material outside. So the next thing you can consider for the outdoor classroom is to add some vegetation. Even in the city or small spaces, there are ways to add living things to the yards. Small container gardening is a great opportunity for children to build empathy and practice caring. If herbs are grown, children can take pride in contributing to their own meals. So that chance of growing many different things in different formats, and it doesn't take up a lot of space outside, but it gives the children a chance to interact with the natural world. And you never know what kind of other visitors that they will encourage when they have something like this outside. So these are Muddy Buddies, and there's been talk about them in our area for a while. So Muddy Buddies support wet weather play. They allow the children to explore freely the outdoor environments in many types of weather. And as stated before, being outdoors promotes well-being and self-regulation skills. So it protects their children's clothes while allowing them to be outside. This is one time that you really have to think about: how will they get cleaned? How will they get dried? And where will we store them? So that we are having a good experience with them and you've thought all of these things through before going out to make the purchase. So they're just some examples of ways you might be able to dry them, hooks you might be able to have. So for days when we can't get outside, how do we support gross motor play for the children? We know that physical activity improves brain function, grows nerve cells, and forges brain connections. The benefits of these childhood activities even carry over into adulthood, keeping our brains sharp as we get older. The more physical activity children have, the better their learning and memory are. This connects the children to being able to co-regulate and engages their large muscles. So again, that chance of thinking it through, do we have the floor space for this? Is there an opportunity to have a fold up one like is in the corner there that you can put it out and take it down, or having the soft vinyl ones? I know stepping stones are quite fun. Those are also good for your vestibular senses. All of these activities are good for your vestibular and proprioceptive senses. So again, it's that, what do we have space for in our rooms, and where would we store them if we weren't using them? Okay, so one of the biggest questions to ask at the end is, how will you know if your purchases have made a difference? So have the educators observe and document as the items are added to the classrooms or the outdoors. This documentation can be part of your quality story and inform you about future purchases as well. So it's just thinking about all of those things that you have, what are high interest areas, what could be added to, and then watching and seeing how the children are using them. So we want to thank you for your attention today. If you have any other questions, please reach out to your professional learning consultant at ASCII, or you can call the ASCII switchboard. And if you don't have a learning consultant, and they can certainly support you, one of us can certainly support you as well. So thanks Kim and Nancy and Leslie for your support with all of this.